roles I've ever seen in a video game, in kind of undertaking the video game version of what was Marlon Brando's General in Apocalypse Now, in the video game Spec Ops: The Line.
Yep.
It wasn't the most popular video game in the world, but if you play that game, it has a plot that is very, very intense. It was one of those games where gameplay-wise, I was like, that's an okay game, you know, it feels pretty, you know, on the rails as what a normal video game is. But what kept me going forward was a really engaging and twisted plot throughout the course of the game.
And a twisted character.
Yes, and the unbelievable options at the end. Spoiler alert, you end up face-to-face with Bruce's character in the game.
Yeah.
And is he real or is he part of your brain?
Yeah, it's a crazy role.
Going around Dubai, murdering civilians because...
It's the most violent thing I've ever been associated with. I couldn't believe it when I finally saw it. I went, my God, this thing is awful. It's just like, oh my God, they're just blowing the hell out of everything, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if we've lost you on the video game reference, but I really wanted to ask the question. I mean, because we were talking about acting before we got
But a video game is a very insular performance. It's just me in a booth.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't know what the thing looks like, where it is. You know, there's no like in a movie or storyboards or anything like that. I actually worked on that thing for almost a year, which I was astounded that video games take so long to make, and yet, believe it or not, the video game world brings in more money than the movie world or the music world, and it's amazing. So, yeah, you're going to see more and more people like myself and other actors, big name actors, doing that venue because you're reaching an audience that way, you know, and it helps in your other ventures. But that was an interesting one. I really didn't know the plot. I just came in and did the dialogue. And then they would ask you, do it this way, can you do it? And then each line I would do about 15 times in various ways that I thought could be different each time. And then they would pick the best from that. And I was like a absolute insane, over-the-top Colonel Conrad in that thing.
It was fantastic.
Took over post-apocalyptic Dubai.
Give it a play.
And I was killing everybody. I was just a monster. But anyway, it was all.
There's one scene where there's a civilian hanging from a bridge, and you were forced to make a decision. From your twisted character is like, well, you can shoot him because he's stole some water, or you can kill the guy who is guarding him, who has killed his family to get him up here for us today. So it's either civilian.
It was a you know, a nice family comedy.
Yeah. We laughed, and Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory has a funny cameo. Okay.
Yeah, that's the guy I want to deal with, Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory.
You want to give people the choice?
No, I want to be in that show once. I want to come walking through the door, be in an elevator or something with him, and he's talking, and he's dishing Babylon 5 or whichever Tron. He doesn't seem to like my work at all, I guess. It's okay. Any kind of flattery, it's all good.
So I guess in my extension, I'm sorry I'm being a bit long-winded. Guys, if you have a question for Bruce, come on, or I guess we could shout it from the back, basically.
Yeah, we're easy.
Yeah, but to finish up my question, in terms of acting, I mean, when you're doing film, the camera's right there, so you're not as physical as I've seen some people go when they're in the voice recording booth. Like I've seen.
Well, I did Tron Uprising too last year, and that's all. You know, we had a huge, wonderful voice cast for that. Elijah Wood and Lance Hendrickson, and oh my God, we had so many people, Paul Rubens. And, but you come in and you do your bit. You not ever see each other.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how it's done. You come in and do your lines. Somebody would read with you. And then I was always like very surprised to hear how Elijah sounded. You know, I only worked with him once, and that's when we were auditioning the whole piece for the Powers That Be at Disney. They wanted to hear it first and before they were signed off on it, and we did, and they liked it. But in a video game situation, it's really so technical. I did Tron 2.0 as well, and you know, I can say as an actor, it's not the most fulfilling thing, you know, but you know, I have a voice. I know how to use it. I know how to do inflections and things that you know, and I just had an immediate sort of visceral idea of this character, and no one really told me how to do it. I just went ahead and did it. So, and they bought it, you know.
line, and sinker.
You know, but for like acting, yeah, I would much prefer where you're actually doing something, you know, and interacting with someone. But you know, we do what we have to do.
Yeah, like you said, the industry makes so much money.
Oh, it's huge, and it's so much exposure, and so those people, if they like what you know, who knew? I mean, I raised 3 sons. I know from video games way back, from Pac-Man on, you know, and now to, you know, some of these horrible things like Grand Theft Auto. Oh my God, this is terrible. But that's the world we're in. So
I did some video game voice acting myself.
yeah. So you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's not. There's no real interaction in the thing, and I just would do dialogue several times. They'd say, do it some more with this, do it some more with that. I would try to do that, and it was always a voiceover in my headphones. I rarely met the people. So very kind of strange existence. But
Yeah.
it's the life of an actor.
Excellent.
So let's talk to the folks. Yes, sir. What's up?
So going in the opposite direction from the violence of modern video games. The Babylon Project is described as the last bastion for peace, and you guys work with the National Space Society.
I did years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if your perspective on what the world's best home for peace has changed at all, you know, as a result of your experience with either of those organizations.
God, that's so way up in the air, I have no idea. I mean, there's never going to be peace, I'm sorry. It's just not human.
Well, the
So,
Babylon Project did fail.
it failed, right. So, Joe Straczynski, you know, probably is a bit of a cynic. He's a bit of a cynic about all that as well. No, I just think, you know, listen, originally when the United States landed on the moon, they put a plaque up there. It's still there. We come in peace, and they weren't military officers putting it on there because in the 1960s and 70s, they wanted the world, the first human beings to be on the moon, to not be military. We didn't want to militarize space. Well, it couldn't be more militarized now. We've got killer satellites up there. We've got ballistic, you know, CBMs, ICBMs and stuff like that, so that do go into space. But the best movie out right now is a movie called Gravity. If you haven't seen it, you're missing something. It's an exceptional movie. Space is not a fun place, is it? When you've seen that movie. It's a dangerous place to be, especially in near Earth orbit. But no, I don't have any highfalutin, you know, theories on the last best. You know, that was a TV show. We have to realize it was a TV show, and they blew the hell up. They blew it up after I left. So, you know. Anyway, anybody else? Sir.
All right. I got like a 2-part question.
Yes, sir.
The first one's pretty simple. What did you think of Tron Legacy?
Loved it. I got a job on it. Yeah, I was lucky.
And first time you actually played the role for Tron, like,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think? Like, it's a big role. Did you think it was going to, like, shoot you up?
No.
How did you feel?
No, after it failed at the box office, I went right back to television because I said, I don't have a motion picture career. I auditioned for Luke Skywalker, as about 1,000 other young actors in Hollywood at the time in the 70s. And so I didn't get that, obviously. That's okay. That's okay, because I'm glad I didn't, because the guy who did, he hasn't worked since. And it's the truth, sadly. Harrison Ford is the only one that went on to do anything else after that, you know. But when Tron came along, I was very much doing westerns on television. And when I read the script, I said, I can't understand this piece of shit. And horse pucky. And I put it, I was sitting on a horse, I put it in the saddlebag, I left it there. I think some wrangler used it for whatever later on. But when I got back to LA, they said, no, they really want to see you for this thing. And Jeff Bridges is on board, and he's doing it. I went, Jeff Bridges? Oh, okay. Because as an actor, you're always aware of, you're kind of like your peers, okay? And I had seen Jeff ever since, probably the last picture show and some of the early pictures that he had been in. I worked with his father 3 years before that on How the West Was Won. knew Lloyd very well, and I'd met Bo before, so, but I was a big fan of Jeff's work, and the chance to work with somebody that you yourself admire, and especially a contemporary, was great. And but I didn't really know anything about Tron. There were no home computers. It was about arcade games, and I didn't really play arcade games. I was 31 years old. I was already outgrowing that stuff for the most part. And they said they have a meeting at Disney with this guy, Steven Lisberger, and the casting agent, Pam Polifroni. Now, Pam had cast me originally in a Gunsmoke episode, and then in the series I had in the 70s called How the West Was Won for ABC. And then I went on to do The Gamblers with Kenny Rogers and Rogers. So anyway, she was casting for this movie, and I went up there. And first of all, I didn't do feature films, so it was an exciting prospect of doing a feature film. But I went and they showed me some of the things. I met Steven Lisberger, and I thought, this is, okay, Star Wars you didn't get, but this kind of looks like Star Wars a little bit, you know, you're in some of these vehicles, and you've got a helmet, and you're all, so I didn't know, I hadn't a clue. So I said, yeah, I'm very interested in doing this. And apparently Steven had seen me in something. He was he thought I'd be right for it. And he showed me some footage that they had shot that they used to help sell this to Disney Studios. And I thought, yeah, it's really, really incredible. And then it's kind of inside this video game, and he's a video warrior. It's the title name. That's not bad. And then I read the stuff, obviously, that would take place with Jeff and Cindy and David Warner, ultimately. And it was a good story, you know. It was a fun story. And to work at Disney, I'm of the generation, I'm an original Disney kid. I grew up with The Wonderful World of Disney on television, and Davy Crockett and Zorro and all these things, and the chance to work at Disney Studios was such a dream come true. So all of those things are what really really made me enthusiastic to want to do it. And I said, yes, I want to do this very badly. And my agent at the time was very excited about it. So, but it was for not reasons of Tron itself, it was for all those other reasons. Then when we got into it and I started seeing how we were going to do this, it was an exciting adventure in the making of it, because no one was really doing anything like that. And there's this myth about CGI, that this entire movie was computer generated. There was no such thing. It was called CG, computer graphics, and there was only about 20 minutes in the original film that has computer graphics in it. And the rest of it was old school hand-painted cells by thousands of Taiwanese people in Taiwan who twice had to do 62,000 frames each of hand-painted frames. They did it the best. They were great artisans doing it. And Harrison Ellenshaw tells a story. He was the effects coordinator on the thing, that the original batch, after it was finished, they didn't know how they were going to do it. They knew that they couldn't, computer power wasn't sophisticated enough to do it yet. So they were going to have people do it. So were we going to hire college students? And they thought, yes, we'll go to a college, and over their summer break, we'd hire several hundred of them to sit and do these things, art students, you know, from some big university. They said, yeah, but then, oops, we're going to have to feed them. So then we're going to have, how are we going to do that? Sack lunches? What is it going to be? And it was all these, it was very simplistic. And so they went over to Taiwan, and they had all these artisans sitting there and hired them for gosh, months at a time. And the first batch that came back got damaged severely in the transportation of it, in the shipping of it. They had to turn around and beg the head of the studio again for $3 million more to go back and do it all over again. So the movie was very old school, very, very old school. You know, I was wearing spandex tights. You know, so did Errol Flynn as Robin Hood, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that was, and all the way back to the beginnings of movies. So we were wearing these tights, and the circuitry that was all drawn on us was all Sharpie. It was all Sharpie black drawn on us, and we had about several pairs, and we had to wear doubles and everything like that. As opposed to Tron Legacy, where those are actual electrical suits. And you can ask Garrett Hedlund, he got electrocuted in a couple times because he used to be sweating so badly in the thing would start to short circuit on them. And they could only have it on so long because they start to heat up inside that suit. So that each take had to be only so many minutes long before it started to hurt the actor, to fry the actor. We've come a long way from the original Tron. But always with the pioneering effort of something, this is sort of that excitement, a great possibility that we were going to absolutely fail. And it was Steven Lisberger's vision that ultimately led all the way, and still, I mean, I think the next movie is going to be done in the next year or so, within the next year for 2015. So it's an ongoing story. It's not a remake legacy. It was a sequel 28 years later, where they now, and it reflects the change since Pac-Man to the, special ops. I mean, look at the world with the sophistication of video games now. And what's great is that the grid kind of shows that. So that they'll, the flying machine, we had the light cycles, but they were a little more updated, The old Chevy just got fixed up some more and made new, So I'm very excited to answer your, what did I think of Tron Legacy? I thought it had to try to answer several things. We had to reboot a franchise, it wasn't a franchise yet, try to create a franchise out of something that was 30 years ago. To an audience that most of you weren't born or you were little children. How was that in 1 2-hour period, 2 an hour, whatever it was? Script-wise, it was very difficult to try to bring the old audience back, remember how it started, and then catch a new audience up on the backstory of Tron. And so I think, we don't have to do that anymore. With the next movie, we just continue on now. You've got young Sam and Cora and Alan Bradley. You've got a company that is seriously in trouble and is going to, we've got young Eddie Dillinger Jr., Cillian Murphy. He doesn't, in Tron Legacy, he doesn't do just little cameo roles. That was a foreshadowing into the next picture, So it's an ongoing story as far as I know. But they don't tell me anything. It's way above my pay grade. I always tell everybody, people come to me because I played Tron, that I must know everything, and I don't. I was lucky that they hired me in the last movie. I was so flabbergasted because the head of this production, Sean Bailey, our executive producer, as well as the director, Joe Kosinski, called me personally because after San Diego Comic-Con, they had sprung on the audience at Hall H at San Diego, which is the largest hall there, this little preview of Jeff in this light cycle chase, and I went, oh my God, it went online, it went viral immediately. Somebody had one of these going, they were not supposed to have a camera in the room, and somebody very strategically had some footage they were showing. And when that happened, I guess the Disney guys saw the reaction of the fans in the room and heard the reaction because they started screaming and yelling, that they greenlit the production to do it. So anyway, I'm rambling here. Is there any more questions? Right here, you wanted to ask earlier. Yes.
I was going to ask, you met University of Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of cowboy is very prevalent in your films. I kind of, I was just curious. I haven't had a chance. I can't find your books anywhere.
Sold. It's probably out of, they've probably been all sold. I used to be able to, sure, on Amazon, you can't find an old paperback somewhere.
I call bookstores, so it's.
Yeah.
What is it specifically about cowboy that you as an actor you're so attracted to?
Well, I don't know. On many mythic levels, I mean, obviously, the real one is there's just a hard-working guy that's dirty all the time. He works with sweaty animals. I did it in my life. I'm actually a cowboy. But there's a mythic quality in which, here in the Western world, that's all Western civilization, it's like a root character, an iconic, archetypal character that has gone into outer space. Buck Rogers, You know, Flash Gordon, you know, Han Solo. Yes, Firefly. One season flop. My God. And they got a movie. Can you believe that? I did 5 years on Babylon 5 and couldn't get a feature film. This one season nobody with Nathan something or other in it. I like Firefly a lot. I always tease the big guy on that, Baldwin. Adam Baldwin. I said, you were really in that piece of crap? Oh, really? No, I just kidding. I loved it a lot. But there's a perfect example. You know, it just has. It's just something. It's the lone hero. You know, the lone hero as they were written back in the olden days, all the way up to modern times. You know, Han Solo was very much a cowboy character. Lucas, you know, certainly based his character on that. And even though he was a space pirate, he still wore a holster, you know, a fast draw holster with a ray gun. But there's just something about that. It's just a mythic cowboy is what I'm more interested in. As John Ford, the great Western director in the golden age of Hollywood, said, when the legend becomes fact, print the legend. We don't want to know about the dirty, scrappy old guy drunk in a bar on Saturday night, cowboy. We want to know the guy marching down the street to take on the bad guys for the good of all of us. That's what we want. You know. Anyway. Sir?
If Crusader hadn't been canceled after 1 year, would you have taken an active part in that?
In what?
The follow-up to Babylon 5. Crusader.
No, they didn't want me in that. They didn't want any of us in it.
Really?
No. That's why I have nothing good to say about it. That was a very bitter, contentious time. I said good luck to him, and I did the last movie and walked out the door. Shaved my beard off. I did the last TV movie, which was the introduction of Crusade. It was called, what was it called?
Call to Arms.
Call to Arms. And that was my swan song for Babylon 5 until the last-ditch effort to try to resurrect something from Babylon 5 called Lost Tales. And we did that.
I saw those. Those are good.
Yeah. And then Warner Brothers didn't show any interest in that either. So, you know, I don't know. I don't pretend to know all the politics behind things. But when we were picked up by TNT, they wanted to make their own Babylon 5. You know, we were canceled after our 4th season. We actually shot Sleeping in Light at the very end of the 4th season, and we're all very depressed that we couldn't, we didn't reach that 5-year goal that JMS had set out to do, and that became our mission to do 5 seasons and tell the whole story that he had conceived. And it was very depressing. It was very disheartening that we weren't coming back. There's a very famous photograph. It's a big, wide one of the whole cast. It floats around. I signed them. I've been signing them for 20 years at conventions of all of us looking towards the camera. We're all lined up against the wall on the soundstage, giving the finger. It's a very, you may see it sometime, but that was very sort of the way we felt. We all walked away very angry, very hurt. Then we get word that TNT, Turner Network Television, picked it up. And they were also going to do 4 2-hour TV movies. And so it was a chance to kind of finish it off the way we wanted to. JMS, to his credit, he cobbled together what he could, that he tried to, he had storylines all over the place that didn't get to be finished, and some never did. But he tried to steer her back on course, with now a new network boss. And see, Warner Brothers left us alone out there. We were all alone in the night. They never bothered us. I think they had 1 note in 4 years. That's very unusual for a network or a studio to not interfere with your creative process. So they let him go. Then TNT had, I'm sure, I don't know any specifics, but it probably had a lot to say about how they wanted it to go. And they also wanted to do a spin-off, so he did that, And it only lasted 13 episodes. I never saw one of them because I didn't want to see it again. And that was it. I was bitter.
Were you afraid of?
But that's many years ago now, so I don't have that bitterness towards it.
Were you concerned that just might be but not as good as Babylon 5?
Well, it's certainly, you know, when you do a show like that, you have no idea whether it's going to really be successful, and then it did become successful. And it was always precarious at the end of every season whether we were going to come back, but we did, you know. It was kind of, you know, trying to capture lightning in a bottle again.
Yeah.
It was the time and the place, the people. We've lost 5 of them that have passed on, and you know, it's kind of disheartening, and that's why I'm always asked too, when are they going to do another one? I said, well, we can't really do another one. If they did another Star Trek, fine. That reboot is wonderful. I love the J.J. Abrams ones, but to try to do Babylon 5 again, I think was. I personally don't want to do it myself. I've been there. I've done it. I don't want to live in the past. I want to keep going on acting, you know. But I think the attempt, I wish them luck, good luck on Crusade, and if it had kept the life of it going, who knows, maybe there would have been a time, if that show had gone on for 5 years or so, and maybe somewhere in there they needed to have a flashback, because I believe I was just about gone by then. My character had a good cowboy. I rode over the hill, you know, over the rim there. And, you know, it was a beautiful experience all the way around. I was extremely angry when it ended because I loved doing that show. I could have been content to have done that show for 20 years. Very right. If that had been the last thing I had done, that would have been fine with me. I was a character. I got to do everything that a leading man could do. You know, I got to go from A to, as you say here, Z. For the actor, I got to do everything an actor would want, you know. There was like comedy, there was all kinds of things, you know. But every dramatic moment was wonderful. And Joseph Michael Straczynski is, to this day, still my favorite writer. He gave me the best material ever as an actor to be able to work with. So I really have no complaints. All of that other stuff with Crusade, that was all political. That had, you know, nothing to do with the art of it. So was it any good? I never saw it. I just know that a lot of the fans weren't happy with it. So
Well, the
it
plot
was
line...
worth a try, you know.
Well, the plot...
Better if they aired it in order.
Did they do just standalone episodes?
Yes.
No.
I mean, what I'm saying, you had a beginning and an end. Was there a through line through it? I mean, like we had?
Yeah.
Okay. It was all about getting the thing with Earth. Tribes, I know that. I've
Plague.
forgotten it. Earth was the plague that was destroying Earth, and they had to find the cure or whatever it was, right? That was the mission that I put them on, and I can't even remember.
I think you need time for a show like that to find itself, though.
It was a hard act to follow, wasn't it? It was a very hard act. You know, I'm a big fan. I was always a big fan of the original Star Trek. I never really got into the other ones. Well, I did. I used to tease Jonathan Frakes about it all the time. But I love the original Trek. But anyway, yes, ma'am. You've had your hand up here. I thought maybe it just came that way. Actually, just. Well, I still fight for the users. I don't know if I have a favorite. Just doing it, you know, it was so much fun. The original was so much fun. Being asked to come back was even more fun because it had been that many years later. You know, no one ever thought this would come back. And that's, I mean, and to see Jeff again. We didn't get to do anything together in the picture, really. We had our young stuff, but that was young. Those were stunt guys that were our bodies, and our faces were all motion captured, and they made us a little bit younger and everything. It just was a great group of people, and you know, everybody that made Tron Legacy, they were all little kids that grew up to make their own Tron movie. How thrilling was that, you know? And everyone was thrilled making it, because it was, for the most part, everybody in that crew and cast, this was something from their own childhood. If I heard Michael Sheen tell another reporter about he and his father in their small Welsh village going when he was 11 years old. I said, shut up, you're making me feel like Methuselah here, for God's sake. And I so respect Michael. He's such a great actor, and what a wonderful character he played in Legacy. But we did a lot of the press junkets together, and all the actors too, they all wanted to be in the movie, you know. It wasn't, you didn't have to break anybody's arm to get in it. Even Olivia Wilde, you know, such a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. And I think she was just stunning and so cute as Cora in the thing. When her line, when she's talking to Sam and they're looking at the books, and she says something about Jules Verne. He says, well, I know Jules Verne. He says, oh, really? Have you met him? What's he like? You know, it was such a great moment of innocence. But everybody was so enthusiastic to be there. And seeing the dude again was like old times. He and I, one night we went out to dinner. The only time we actually got to hang out and off the set. And we went out to, of course, Jeff being the rocker that he is. We had to go see Leonard Cohen that year was doing a live tour again. And in Vancouver at Canada Place, he had a big show that weekend, and we got great tickets to it. You know, who's going to not give Jeff Bridges good tickets? And he had Crazy Heart out and everything coming out, and so we went there, and it was just such a fun time. Of course, all we had to do was inhale in the place, and we were so it was like being with the dude, you know. I haven't done that in years, and yet I was the happiest camper in that whole place. Wow, this is so much fun, man! You know, it was great.
Those two industries. They've got film and they've got the green stuff.
That whole place was so thick with smoke, it was unbelievable. But, you know, and I kept thinking, Leonard Cohen, my God, what hallelujah, that was back in Joni Mitchell, is he still alive? And the dude kept going, come on, man, he's a poet, man. You know, I said, okay, let's go, I'm happy, you know. We all went out to dinner, and then we went to the concert. It was a great, great evening. Otherwise, I didn't get to work with him until after, we didn't do anything until the premiere of it. You know, Jeff is Jeff, and he's just a great star and a great actor. I think he's one of our best actors in films today. And, you know, I wasn't wrong way back when to want to do a movie with Jeff Bridges. I sort of had, it's been a great experience. So, yes, sir.
Well, since we talked a lot about Beat 5 and Tron, I thought we'd talk about another project. I know you did a couple of episodes of Chuck as the Awesomest Father.
Yeah.
I'm actually sorry they didn't have you on there more. I think Morgan Fairchild did one episode without you.
Yes, he did. I was very hurt. Why wasn't I there?
What was this like working on that one? It seemed like it was a lot of fun.
Well, it took me back to Scarecrow and Mrs. King in many ways. It was exactly the modern uptake on Scarecrow and Mrs. King, only the gal was the kick-ass spy, and the guy was sort of the geeky, you know, regular guy. And they shot it right one stage over from our old sound stage on Scarecrow and Mrs. King. So it was great. It was nothing but fun. It wasn't much of a role. I just got to be me. And Zach Livy, who, you know, in the beginning of the show, you always saw that Tron poster in his bedroom in there. And so they were all geeking out about that too, all the crew. And Zach, by the way, when he found out I did Tron, I was doing Tron Legacy, he was like, I tried so hard to get into that. He's dead. I guess he had CAA, his agency, trying like crazy to get him into that, but it just wasn't the part for him. And they didn't think he fit the role of Jeff Bridges' son, but he was a huge Tron fan, so I got nothing but peppered with questions about Tron from him.
He has a huge poster in
the beautiful, what's her name, who played his... She didn't know Tron, didn't know, she could care less. Anyway, so I didn't have any good things there, but it was all good. It was just, it's a fun show, but they struggled. They were always down in the ratings. I empathize with that a lot. And so I sort of was kind of a little cheerleader for them, saying, come on, you got a great show. It's
5 years.
5 years they made it, but they never knew from season to season again whether they were going to get canceled. They struggled in the ratings, but thank God they got to do it. And he's a very talented young man. He really is. So, there's nothing but a good experience. Yes? Didn't I answer enough questions at the table for you?
So,
She's written them down
I
now.
written them down.
Wow.
Yeah, you've played so many diversified roles. Was there any show that you like doing more than others? And is there any one particular actor that you had the most fun working with? Any memorable moments? And are you working on any new projects?
Yeah, I'm doing a series now in Vancouver called
Five
Cedar
questions.
Cove, which is on the Hallmark Channel in the States. And I believe you have the W here. W? Is it in some of the program? Or it's on Sunday nights here on the W. But we finished the first season already, it's off. So maybe they go to rerun to see that. It's a big cast. I'm just one of many. It stars Andy McDowell. And it's not a genre piece at all. It's not sci-fi or anything else. It's just good drama. But to answer your question, it's very difficult to answer that question. Because there's something about, I think I told you at the table, every role that I've ever taken, I put my heart and soul into, and they're each the love of my life at that time. You know, I loved Babylon 5, but I loved working. Kate Jackson and I were the best duo ever on TV. Also, and for those of you that weren't alive to see it then, it's a great DVD compilations of it right now. And you know what? We made damn good television in the 80s. It beats a lot of the shit that's on today. And I don't hold back my language. Absolute crap today.
But Bruce, what about Ice Road Truckers?
Huh?
What about Ice Road?
What about Ice Road Truckers? My God, there's some heavy, deep stuff. Yes, and I see, you know, reality, my personal opinion, reality television has been the worst thing to come along.
It's ruining
First of all, it's very name reality. There's no reality to it at all. You put a camera on something, it's no longer real if you're watching it. Documentaries are more. But, you know, that's just my own soapbox I would get on. It has destroyed so many of our careers. And the reason you don't see me a lot, that's one of the reasons. Because my whole generation of television actors weren't allowed to go into the movies because when I came into the business, you did television or you did motion pictures, but you didn't do both. Now, you know, back and forth, they can do. It's all open. But I still have that. Tron is the only thing I ever got to do. Really, I've been in a lot of feature films and never in like a leading role, other than Tron. But and I'm not complaining. I understand how it's done. But the fact is that a lot of us that hurt, you know, because once HBO started having movie stars on television, everybody else scrambled to try to catch up, and now in all the network television. And for all these stars who were in the movies, they started in the movies and are no longer filling the seats in the movie theater, their agents say it's time for you to start thinking about doing television. And that's when it all changed. The whole landscape changed, and we had the Glenn Closes, and we had all of these big stars. And I'm not saying they came to television and everybody else got pushed out. So most of the guys, I'm 63, most of the guys in our 60s and 50s, there was a time, we're all sitting in the hallway now auditioning again, whereas we didn't have to do that. I'm not crying the blues, it's just what it is. I understand business. It's not show art, it's show business. And a new audience has come in there. And but I'm lucky now, I'm starting to, you know, come back and working more, so I just waited out that period where I wasn't around for much. And it's a good thing, you know. And those roles, though, I think Scarecrow and Mrs. King is probably the one. That was my most popular role back in the day. And but Kate and I had such chemistry together. We could just talk, and it worked in the show, you know. We would come up with gags and stuff like that to do between Lee and Amanda that was not written in the scripts. And that's harder to find nowadays. It's harder to find scenes where they actually have long dialogue in them anymore. It's generally cut. If the scene lasts for 2 or 3, a minute or two, boom, it's off. It's such fast editing now.
Who was the most fun to work with?
I think Katie. Yep. We had a lot of laughs on that one. We had to. We spent 15 hours a day with each other, 15, 16 hours. So, but we had spats too. That was fun. It's like being in a family. You have fights and arguments and disagreements, and then you kiss and make up. So, anyway, anybody else? Sir, and then I'll come to you.
I didn't want to apply that because it's Sean that you know everything, but.
No, I don't know a thing. Yeah.
But once again, you're a symbol for justice and the destroyer of the master programmer. Certain conspiracy theories growing more popular, as well as increasing integration with virtual reality and computers. Do you think that master programmers can develop here on Earth?
I think we've already done it, haven't we? I mean, it's happening as we speak. I think it's incredible how we're going to be creating a clue type, what do you call them? You know? Yeah, I mean, I think it's all happening. We're going to go there. I mean, yeah, they're already in science fiction movies just predicted just before it's about to happen.
That reminds me, I need a photo from my Facebook from you.
You do. But yeah, we've got the avatars, you know, all that sort of thing right now. I don't know. It's kind of scary, but kind of exciting. You bet. Because you know what? The machines will never take us over. We're human beings. We made them. We can destroy them too. You know. So maybe I hope Terminator doesn't come about though. I don't want to chase them. What's that? Yeah, let's try not to have that. Okay. So who else? Sir, you had one right here. I worked with the executive producer, Douglas Netter, years ago. I did a Western with him, with Sam Elliott. And they were going to replace the lead character, the commander in the Babylon 5 thing. And I'm sure I'm not the first one that was under consideration. I'm sure the scripts they sent me had a lot of fingerprints, previous fingerprints all over them. But I saw it. It just was the perfect time in my life. It was another period in my career which I was dead in the water. I wasn't doing anything. There was no interest in me. It often happens after a hit television series. You're kind of cold for a while. They don't want to hire you because there's too much of an identity with you. That's why, you know, a lot of actors didn't want to do TV because they didn't want to identify, you know, stereotyped. I didn't mind it. But they wanted to replace the lead. Michael O'Hara, bless him, he's passed away since. And I think I'd seen the show once, and I thought there was a marked difference from the Star Trek shows that were on. And this show, it seemed darker. Just its whole tone was darker, more ominous and dangerous feeling. And Star Trek was very light and optimistic, ultimately optimistic, you know. And Babylon 5 had a certain cynical quality to it. So Doug called and they got a hold of my agent. I went over and visited the set, and I had seen a lot of people I'd worked with before, and character was just right up my alley, you know. And I liked it, and I got to stay home and sleep in my own bed every night as opposed to sleeping in a hotel somewhere in some city other than my home. Because that's where I was, where I worked, I always had to travel to go to do it for a few weeks or whatever it was, then come home. I got to go home every night and have a family life. That was a big incentive in doing it, and but just a terrific role, you know. So, sir.
For starters, Tron was a have you ever looked back after the movie, sat back and watched it?
Watched the movie?
Yeah, both movies.
Oh, I've watched it. I thought, you know, it was very clever of them. You know, just before Legacy came out, you couldn't find a copy of Tron, the original Tron on DVD. They bought them all up because they were going to do their own Blu-ray release. And I've looked at both. I love it. I mean, if you look on the Tron Legacy Blu-ray release, it's called The Day After. That was all footage that we shot after the movie was completely done. I did this a few months later, and it was like, you know, shooting more of the movie, the stuff we didn't get to do, because there's only so much story you can tell in 2 hours. And it was actually more of the movie that we did, the whole, Alan Bradley and the whole underground movement, the Flynn Lives movement, and all that sort of thing. It was all to tell you what's coming next, you, the audience. But I like them. I think, I think they're fun, an exciting movie, and the characters are relatable. Yeah. Yeah. Hello. And now she's blushing all over the place. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
We're about the same age. I'm marginally younger.
Okay.
So I grew up with the same westerns that you watch, and I've always wondered, when westerns are going to come back. I'm wondering if, because life seems so complicated now, can you see the industry maybe trying to bring back the western?
Not after Johnny Depp killed it. Sorry. That was an abomination. If they'd have just done a straightforward, the story of the Lone Ranger, they probably would have been a little more successful with the gimmick. I don't know where these ferocious rabbits came from and all this goofy stuff. They tried to make it Pirates of the Caribbean, and it just, over the top all the way. I've ridden horses all my life, and I wouldn't get on top of a train car at full speed to ride a horse on. You out of your mind. No, I don't know. I'm of a couple opinions of that. I don't think the Western is going to come back. I think we don't relate to the frontier experience anymore. I just don't see it. It's they don't want to buy them. I was explaining to the lady back there that, especially now, when a big, huge budgeted film like that comes out, and then with the bad press and the bomb at the box office, they will just, if it's a Western, they will hands off and back away. The last few, 310 to Yuma and Tombstone was probably the highest grossing one, and Clint Eastwood's last Unforgiven was the only one that got Oscar for it. So I wish it would come back. It's like wanting the buffalo to come back. That dream is over. I mean, we still have them, but they're not going to be back in the millions like the natives wanted them to be. It's a bitter dream. I just don't think the young people relate to it anymore. I really don't. And allegorically, we can do the Western in other ways, but the traditional black hat, white hat type of thing, I doubt it. I really doubt it. And they'll never go away completely, but there's never going to be a comeback where it's, we grew up, there were 33 television series on, 37 of them, I think, Westerns on 50s and the 60s when I was a boy, and that's when but that taught me right from wrong. Those stories taught me those things, and I think it's, anyway. Yes?
What did you think of Jack Bridges' portrayal of True Grit?
I loved it. That was a good one. See, they'll be good. I mean, there's still some always. That was very true to Charles Portis's book, even more so than John Wayne's was. But I wouldn't negate either of them. They were terrific. A good story is a good story. It can be told again. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh my God, they made Hamlet again." Right? There's been a few sequels of that, remakes. Romeo and Juliet, but they made another one of those. A good story is worth telling again. If it's especially from a great novel or something like that. Yes, sir.
What was it like working with James Arness on How the West Was Won?
Well, James was my mentor in this business. He was the final decision in picking me to play his nephew in that series, and I'll always be grateful because that gave me a career. I didn't have a career before that. I was hitting around doing little guest spots on television series, popular series at the time, but once that gave me a real career and a direction, and I owe everything in my life to that. I met my first wife